Hey everybody, how's it going? So recently there's been some comments made about Spider-Man Far From Home maybe having a hidden elemental. Now this would be pretty cool, and in Marvel Comics there's actually two different groups that use the name elementals, which both include usually 4 members to coincide with the 4 classical elements, and everyone that's familiar with Avatar: The Last Airbender probably knows this, but we have air, earth, water, and fire. Now, one elementals team, actually kind of similar to something that's going on Far From Home, is actually from a different universe, sent to Earth thousands of years ago before the current mainstream time period. Now, this team was composed of Hellfire, Hydron, Magnum, and Zephyr. The other popular elementals team was also known as the Elementals of Doom, and they were created by a magic talisman stolen by Diablo to act as a physical counter for the Fantastic Four. However, in Spider-Man Far From Home, the trailers we've seen so far and other marketing materials have only mentioned and shown 3 elementals so far, and that is one of fire, earth, and water, presumably based upon Molten Man, Sandman, and Hydro Man respectively. Now, if there was a 4th member added to the team of elementals, I'm not really sure what that member would be, because based off the sequence we saw in the trailer, which did show Spider-Man and I think Mysterio as well, fighting a large amalgamation type elemental, the only other characteristics outside of fire, earth, and water that were seemingly shown to some extent was, I guess, air, you can make that argument, and also electricity, which would have been really interesting if we got an electrical based elemental, because I'm pretty sure all Spider-Man fans know most likely who that would be based upon. Now, going to the air elemental, while a lot of Marvel Comics fans want to turn to a character such as Whirlwind for the air elemental, Spider-Man actually already has a wind-powered foe named Cyclone. Now, Cyclone wears a suit that allows him the ability to create high-velocity winds around himself. And there's actually been 3 Cyclones in the comics, and both the first and the 3rd Cyclone are French, which would fit really well with the whole European setting that Spider-Man Far From Home has. Now, Cyclone also fits with the desire to target B-level highest to C-level range villains to use for the elementals, which I think is perfectly illustrated by having Molten Man, Sandman, and Hydro Man constitute the elemental team we know of so far. Now, the only thing really I think going against this idea for me personally is the fact that there's a lack of connectivity if they do this with the presumed future plans for Spider-Man. And what I mean by this is that we seemingly have an understanding that Sony wants to build towards the Sinister Six with Spider-Man. And presumably a lot of members and a lot of characters from Far From Home, such as Chameleon, such as Mysterio, they're all going to lead or foreshadow one way or another towards the Sinister Six. So I'm not really sure how having Cyclone be this mysterious 4th elemental would contribute to that, because Cyclone, in my opinion, is not really worth hiding in merchandise, not really hiding from trailers. That doesn't make much sense. He's not that big of a character, definitely not a big Sinister Six related character. So while having Cyclone be the air elemental would be cool, it just doesn't really add up to that aspect of things. Now, an elemental that I think would actually fit with this, you know, the whole wanting to hide it because it'd be a popular character and a pretty cool reveal, that would actually fit with an Electro based elemental, which would fit with what I said before, where it was most likely either an air elemental or an electrical elemental based upon the amalgamation elemental kind of sequence that we saw in trailers, because we saw in that giant colossal elemental aspects of wind and kind of hurricane like, I guess, physical characteristics alongside of some lightning and everything scattered throughout the elemental. Now, based upon electricity being used and through that Electro, that'd be very interesting. Now, Electro is also a member of the Sinister Six, so it would be a shame if Electro is simply used as a mindless kind of goon, which presumably a lot of the elementals are also presumably working under Mysterio. And no one really knows if they're illusions, if it's going to be a robotic type of thing, but either one would be very much so a disservice towards a character like Electro. Because while it's also a disservice to a character like Sandman, not as many fans seem to be as vocal about wanting to see Sandman be a Sinister Six member as they do with wanting to see Electro be a Sinister Six member. And we also need to keep in mind that Sony is involved with this, and Sony obviously had plans for Electro considering that he was used in Amazing Spider-Man 2, with the expectation that Jamie Foxx would reprise the role in their future that was never going to be made at this point, Sinister Six movie. Now, it would be really interesting if they do a twist with Electro, where maybe Electro is a leader of the Elementals, like a secret leader working alongside of Mysterio, for whatever their plan may be. And it is worth noting, just like most characters that were villains at this time, Electro first appeared in comics not interested in being a supervillain or anything like that, but instead just having some gear, having some equipment that would help him steal gold from an armored car. So it's very possible that a scam is being established with Mysterio fighting elementals based upon the various classical elements, while Mysterio, kind of being the leader of the elementals, is probably committing crimes, committing theft here and there across the different European cities that Mysterio and the elementals are at. Now, this would also make a lot of sense because if Electro is working with Mysterio, let's say he's helping Mysterio with his gear, that's cool, but let's say he's not, it would make sense that someone who's helping orchestrate the elemental attacks would likewise have gear oriented towards the elementals. Now, I cannot clarify enough that this is definitely far out there speculation at this point. I'm just trying to guess who most likely would make sense to be an elemental if they were to add another elemental to the mix, and obviously Electro is as perfect a candidate as you could think of. For all intents and purposes, like I said before, for a character that they'd want to maybe hide from marketing materials, things like that. But regardless of his speculation or not, who would you like to see added to this movie if you could add one character, whether it's elemental or not? Leave your comments down below, and we'll see you guys later.